Hola familia estelar. This is a workshop for the soul having a human experience. I'm not telling you anything new. What I'm doing is reading information that already exists within you and has possibly lain dormant up until now. And what has lain dormant is the fact that your infinite potential experiencing itself through form. Now, we are going to overlay some of these messages with the tarot just to get deeper into it, but this is going to be a very, very profound message. Probably one of the most important ones that I've been guided to share on the channel, just because this is how I've seen things over the past few months play out in very evident ways. We'll definitely do like a deeper topic on this, but I do want to almost welcome you. Okay, I want to welcome you back to the true nature of this reality. And this is all about the soul as light that's moving through this medium. Now, the medium is not just this medium in which your soul is immersed in. Now, when we talk about immersion, we're talking about being immersed within this matrix, within this universe. And when we are immersed within this medium, which is like this cosmic overlay over the earth, we are also immersed within another medium, and that is this vessel, right? It's the vehicle that allows the soul to experience growth through this carbon-based life form. So there is two mediums, as within and so without. To understand how we experience reality, we must first look at something very, very simple. And what it comes down to is light behaves very, very differently depending on the medium it moves through, right? Depending on how many belief systems are stored within the vessel, we'll talk about it, right? The thought forms within the vessel will completely shift the way that you experience life on Earth. It is the saying where your perception creates your reality. And this is about you remembering the fact that you're a sovereign creator. So in physics, it's very simple, right? The basics come to light in air moves a very particular way, right? Very free flowing. Light in water begins to actually slow down and it begins to bend. And this is the various forms in which you can take on, right? Light in crystals actually begins to split into colors, right? It actually begins to kind of refract maybe into, different kind of rainbow prisms, right? We all see light moving through a prism, through a diamond, and how that creates this beautiful rainbow hue that's kind of pointed out in different trajectories. Light in a lattice now actually refracts into new patterns. So nothing about light itself changes. Light is always the same. The medium in which light, right, the medium in which the soul moves through actually changes the way that the light expresses itself. It changes how well the soul can express itself and also create in this realm. So if we apply this to consciousness, your consciousness is light. It's pure awareness, without thought, without emotion. Light itself, it does not think. Light itself, it does not feel. Light does not even interpret. It simply illuminates. The medium that the light, that the soul moves through, it does think, right? So you are light. You are a child of light, if we quote the Emerald Tablets, who is actually experiencing thoughts, it's experiencing emotions, it's experiencing the sensory, almost like deprivation tank in which we're all in, if you want to say it like that, through the vessel, okay? So that's why they say you're not your thoughts, you're not your emotions, you are the observer of them. The medium is the avatar. It is the carbon-based, almost nervous system. It's the brain and its habits. It's the hormonal body. It's the emotional circuitry. It's the conditioned identity in which we have. It's the learned beliefs that the soul takes on when it incarnates, when it's seeded onto this planet. It's the survival responses. So your experience of reality passes through all these layers first. This can distort the way that the soul sees itself, okay? It can amplify how the soul sees itself depending on that resonance, right? Depending on that vibrational state. But your physical form is not separate from your perception. The physical form is like the biological prism through which consciousness refracts. So while the soul is just light, the experience of that light on Earth is shaped by everything the avatar carries. So if the avatar carries certain traumas, right, that are stored within the emotional body, certain belief systems that restrict and limit the way that it sees itself as a creator. That's when you have all these kind of components that combine, right? How you actually perceive your reality, how you'll perceive your potential in this realm. So it's often not learning, it's about things in which we are unlearning, right? So when we combine all those elements, we're talking about the body, we're talking about the mind, the emotions, the memories, the beliefs, the identity structures in which, we take on, they form an internal lattice. Now, lattice is going to be the key word for today. It's the structured medium that bends the light of consciousness as it moves through space and time. This is why two people can be in the same moment but have a completely different experience of it, right? Again, we're talking about for example, I'm seeing someone again having a fear of heights. The other person sees it as an adventure. Like today I went pretty much rock climbing, like free soloing, if you will, to like the top of some of these spots, and I could take someone else with me, but they'd have a totally different experience because they have a fear of heights within the body, right? Maybe that's past life trauma, right? Of where they have fallen off a cliff, where they were pushed off a cliff, and that is stored within the emotional body. It's stored within the DNA, within the memory. So your state can actually distort the things that are happening. Unprocessed emotions actually begin to alter our perception, right? That's where the way that we see life can be clouded through the emotional lens. Trauma actually bends our interpretation on an experience. So identity filters, right? Meaning that belief systems can expand our possibilities in this realm, or they can limit it. So when we become absorbed within that sensory experience, when we begin to identify ourselves with that thought, with that emotion, with that feeling, right? We mistake ourselves for that belief system. We create an identity around that belief system. That actually begins to disrupt the way that we see ourselves. So we forget that we're not those reactions. We are literally the light that's passing through them, or the light that invites these sensations to pass through us. So we mistake the prism for the source. That's my message. We think that distortion can be the truth instead of recognizing it as a lens effect. Your consciousness is pure light. The avatar is the medium, right? And your internal lattice, which is made up of these thoughts, these feelings, these belief systems, actually form and determine how clearly you will interpret reality, right? Or distort reality. It will change your energetic signature. If you change the way that you're thinking about a circumstance, if you change the way that you're feeling about it, it will ultimately change the way in which you experience it. So the foundation teaching is that reality is not something in which is linear. It's refracted light that's passing through your own personal lattice. That's the saying of, we don't see the world as it is, we see the world as we are. When light travels through a lattice, it travels through this medium, it becomes changed by it. It becomes transformed by it. Which is, when the soul travels through the vessel, the soul experiences growth through the lattice, experiences growth through the vessel. It also experiences growth through having a physical experience, right? Playing with itself through form. This is exactly how space-time behaves, because space-time is not empty. It's consciousness, your light, that behaves differently, right? The soul will have a different experience on Earth depending upon the geometry in which you're moving through, right? The geometry of your field. Now, what creates the geometry of your field? This is something that extends and branches beyond the human vessel, and it's made from what's going on within you. We never see space-time directly. We actually see it through something. We see it through our own crystal lens. It's the lens in which we'll interpret reality through. Now, the beautiful thing is that we can always shapeshift out of these different lenses, right? We can see lens through the wound itself, through the lens of fear, or we can see it through the lens of expansion and adventure and curiosity. The lattice is not a soft or kind of shapeless thing. It's actually very structured, right? When we're talking about this vessel and this earth, it's geometric and it's extremely intentional. In science, a lattice organizes how energy moves. It also dictates the available paths right, that light can take moving through the lattice, that the soul can take moving through the lattice. It determines different angles that we can see the world through, different refractions, right, in the way that the soul will express itself depending upon the filter of perception it's viewing reality through. It's your own internal architecture that will determine the way that you see yourself as an architect of your own destiny, the architect of your own reality. It will literally dictate the way that you build in this experience, right? How well infinite potential can actually flow through you and extend into everything that you do and everything that you touch in this realm. Every belief system, every trauma, every desire, every healed part of you actually becomes the lattice in which light, the soul, begins to bend through. It depends on how expansive or restricted or compressed we are in this system. If you change the lattice, which is changing your thoughts, your emotions, right, your state of being, you'll change the angle. You'll change the angle in how you see reality. The angle is allowing you to actually change the paradigm in which you interpret reality through. It allows you to shift the angle in which you're looking at a circumstance. Then you change the light. Then you change the way that the soul can actually express itself in that situation, which will then in turn, and as a result, change the way that you see the world and your potential in it. You're never seeing reality directly. You're only seeing it through your internal lattice. This is the reason why when we look at a circumstance and we are healed, when we're truly healed is when there is no emotional response in the way that there once was. We can actually see the situation through the lens of wisdom, and it no longer has the impact on us that it once had. That's how we know we've integrated and healed a circumstance. And it's not because the circumstance changed, it's that we changed. We changed the way that we see it, we changed the way that we feel about it, and that led to us changing the way in which we experience or the way that we, feel about the experience, right? It changed our resonance. This brings us on to the second part, which is the earth. That's also a lattice. Lattices are also crystals. So if we talk about crystals, inside of a crystal holds a lattice. So if you think about the earth as a crystal, right, it actually has this lattice structure inside of it. So it's not a neutral space. It's literally a planetary grid. It becomes this geometric matrix full of magnetic corridors, places that were guided to, experiences that were guided to throughout space and time. Ley lines, right? Certain networks, nodal intersections, right? When we take a look at astrophotography, there's vortex points on this earth. There's energetic meridian lines. And if you're an extension of the earth, then you also have all of these aspects within yourself. So the Earth's grid is almost this micro lattice, this crystalline field of potential experiences in which the soul can have here. So if we talk about astrophotography, which is the soul's map laid out against the world, it's about your own internal lattice that is then energetically projected into this hologram, and it's a cosmic overlay over the Earth, right? That's the matrix. It's your internal matrix being projected outwardly. That's a holographic meeting of the two lattices, the internal, the external, as within, so without. Astrophotography is not the planet sending you energy, right? When we talk about these different kind of planetary lines, it's your internal geometry that is then projected holographically outwardly, right? It extends far beyond the human body, around the whole circumference of the Earth, into this planetary grid. The natal chart is not just this map of the sky, it's a map of your internal lattice, right? And when you overlay the internal lattice onto the Earth, it becomes this astrophotography map. This is why it resonates so deeply, because it's the soul's geometry that's traced across this planet. So your planetary lines become your soul's ley lines, if you will, and each planetary line is not good, it's not bad, it's simply a frequency filament and a coordinate of where a specific part of your inner architecture actually expresses itself more clearly. So if you think of planetary lines like Jupiter, that's your expansion circuitry. It's where the soul begins to kind of express itself. However, this could be aspected, right? Whether that's like the AAC, whether it's the descendant line, maybe there's more expansive partnerships in which you will begin to draw into your reality by, transversing through, very specific Jupiterian meridian lines, right? Maybe it's a Venus line, and that's going to impact your values, maybe your relational geometry, right? The relationship that you have with yourself, which will then in turn impact the relationship in which you have in the simulation with all those around you. Maybe it's your Mars line, right? There's an embodied frequency in which will take on transversing through those intersections. These are just like very, what's it called? general themes, because there's so many different aspects of how it's going to impact you. Maybe it's, Neptune energy and there's a visionary field in which you're stepping into. Maybe it's a Pluto line and there's a transformational journey in which you're going to undergo right within that lattice. And they're not external influences. My message is that they're extensions of you. Right? The experiences in which you're drawing to, that reality, that matrix, that lattice, if you will, that area within the lattice, there will be a very particular theme in your life because you're going through transformation, right? You're activating that part. You'll see transformative circumstances, maybe that you're drawing into your experience, and there are other extensions of you. It's seeing the people and the opportunities that you draw in are conscious beings that are also part of the lattice. So your consciousness forms these ley lines. The planets simply reflect those ley lines that already exist within you. Your experience in a place depends on your own internal coherence. So a place does not actually give you energy. It's not that you go to a Pluto line and it gives you the energy of transformation. No, a place actually reflects the place of your own internal geometry. So that resonates with the planetary beam that is there. The high expression is going to be internal coherence. Is where you begin to embrace change instead of feeling overwhelmed by it. If you begin to, step into, for example, a Pluto line and you're avoiding an unavoidable transformation, then you're going to face resistance. You're going to feel that you're being overpowered, right, by external influences instead of allowing your internal state to allow you to actually become empowered by, what's going on. Again, your perception will create the reality. It will change the way in which you experience these lines. So light passes through, again, your internal lattice. How receptive are you to growth and change? You'll experience clarity and alignment and growth if you're able to actually step into that coherence within yourself, right? If you can be mindful of where your mind is at. So the shadow expression, again, is going to be like internal distortion. Light is going to refract very irregularly, also very unpredictably, right? If you're unstable within yourself, well, you'll see that being mirrored into your reality. So your experience kind of pressure, right? Like a pressure cooker. That's what that's what Pluto is. It's also like a death grip. Maybe there's something that you're holding on to that needs to be released within you, okay? And it's not within this place in the world, it's something within you. That's why you come back from places and you're not the same person as you were when you arrived, because there's something being activated within you, okay? So instead of having like in confusion or feeling like the energy is super intense, you can begin to actually allow your intention for what you want to transform in your life to be something that anchors you. So it's not the line itself, it's the interaction between your internal structure, your current state of being, and the planetary filament that will create like the Earth's kind of grid point here. So actually, if you think about it, astrophotography is a relationship between inner and outer geometry and how well they're able to kind of overlay with one another if it's complementary. So movement is going to be something that actually activates the internal map. So as you move around this earth, right, this external lattice, you're never really encountering new energies. Instead, you're activating dormant sections of your own lattice, right? You're activating these ley lines within yourself. So travel is soul in motion, if you think about it, generating new combinations of inner and outer resonance. This is why certain places will call you. Certain places will call you, like, I want to go to this place, or I want to do this thing here, or you're being guided. It's like you'll get the calling to go somewhere. And it's because you're magnetized towards the next part of your own internal geometry. It's like you're unlocking these different aspects and facets and octaves and dimensions within yourself that are ready to be expressed, are ready to be integrated, revealed, maybe healed, right? Maybe there's somewhere that you'll go and there's a lot of wounds that are going to be coming to the surface for you to be able to alchemize them. So the map becomes a hologram, right? This earth experience becomes a hologram for the soul to experience growth through this vessel, right? Through this medium. So astrophotography map is never really a forecast. It's not even destiny or external influence. It's a holographic representation of your own internal architecture stretched across this spherical grid. You're not discovering a place ever. You're discovering a part of yourself as you enter into that place. That is your soul's map across the world. So what we are going to do is I'm just going to pull a tarot message for a takeaway and see where's your soul being guided towards. Let's take a look at an energetic signature. comes to the collective. Okay, the energetic signature we have is the Eight of Embers. This is Mercury in Sagittarius, which we're actually going to be entering into in December. So it could be about, I think it's around December 11th, and we have the Peacock and Empress at the base. So this is about growth. Okay, you're being called into a season of growth. Sometimes this is going to mean, stepping outside of your comfort zone, because the Empress is actually pregnant, and it's about conception of an idea and enterprise, something that she's growing within her that's going to lead to her birthing some kind of tangible physical experience in her outward reality. So there could be an idea that you have that leads to, again, a reality collapsing around you because you're taking the steps towards actually having it become a part of your tangible experience, like a thought that you have in your mind that you begin to actually hold into your hand. Now, Eight of Embers is a burst of energy and vitality in which you receive that propels you towards your dreams, ambitions, and goals at a very highly energetic rate. It's a communication card. So this could be messages that you're sending out, that you have to send out, or messages in which you're receiving. This is an email, text message, phone call, whatever this is, it's some type of communication that comes your way that gives you a, okay, I'm being propelled forward in this direction. It is literally some type of momentum taking forth in your life. So what you're being called towards is exploration. It's an explorative and adventurous card when we talk about Eight of Wands. I'm going to go ahead and read this. So rapid action and quick decisions. A loud explosion catches you off guard, and a plum of dark smoke spills into the sky. It's midday, but the sky is dark from the soot clouding the air. Deafening booms echo in the distance, and the ground is hot with fire. This is a time of war, and you have arrived in an inopportune moment. This is a dark card, and something you hoped you never lived to see. But now you must allow your survival instincts to kick in and learn how to make quick decisions. This card is showing up as a rapid action that must be required at any moment. Waiting in place is not an option anymore. This feels like an inevitable transformation in which you're moving through. That's what it feels like. It's this internal ley line in which you're unlocking within yourself. You don't even have to physically go anywhere. Great travel is the one that knows how to travel the mind. You can enter into frames vibration. You can meditate with the lay of the land, right? You can meditate and connect with certain energetic portals or places, even if this is like coordinates within space and time, right? So this is a card of not for the faint heart. It asks much of you, and you must be willing to give it. You must learn to be comfortable executing a big decision on your own. Make moves before you're taken down. What would be the low octave of an Eight of Wands, right? This could be about, honestly, the low octave of this could be where we hold ourselves back in some way. It kind of reminds you of the Agnes quote where she says, your life will shrink or expand according to one's courage. And this is about opening yourself up to some type of new experience when we talk about Mercury and Sagittarian energy. Again, it's very forward movement, it's momentum, it's being propelled forward in a very specific trajectory in your life. And when it's reversed, it's almost like this reluctancy. It can be apprehension that's felt to move into new terrain. It really is about making friends with the unknown as well, knowing that your full potential lies on the other side of that. So the theme when it comes to unlocking this internal architecture and shifting the way in which the soul will experience your reality is to shift, first of all, the way that you're thinking and feeling, right? Your internal lattice. Again, we're talking about the internal geometry of this medium, so that the soul can really begin to express itself. It reminds me of someone kind of going on stage, like maybe this actress in a musical, but then they are shy when it comes to allowing their voice to be heard. It's almost like the spotlight is on you with Mercury and Sagittarius, Eight of Wands energy. It's like people are ready to hear you, people are ready to see you, they're ready to see the things that you create. Again, it's like this forward momentum which is being witnessed. It's an arrow launching in a very specific trajectory, and it's literally, it's about to hit that bullseye, but it's almost like mid-flight it begins to turn the other way. It's almost like it could be self-sabotage, it could be opportunities coming towards you and you feeling that reluctancy. That would be the shadow side of it. Or it's about forging a new path for yourself. In its highest octave, it's saying, I'm ready to embrace change. It's knowing that change is actually something that leads to growth. It allows my soul to experience growth through this physical vessel, through this physical experience. And that results in evolution. It results in me evolving into a next level of not just reality, but because I've evolved to a new level within myself, Okay, let's also, we have Ace of Wands, and then you have the Phoenix. So the Phoenix rising from the ashes with the Hierophant. Ace of Wands is a burst of really creativity. It can be a creative spark that, it creates a new beginning for yourself of some kind. And it's something that you're very passionate about. Now, the Phoenix, again, is experiencing itself as ashes, so it can experience itself as the Phoenix, right? And I just did a reading on this, which is funny, right? I think it was my Venus entering into Sagittarius video. And that's what you're doing. It's almost as if you are experiencing limits just to be able to experience remembering yourself as a limitless being. It's like we forget in order to remember. We sleep so that we can awaken, and that's what it feels like. Let me go and read this, because this is two very, very powerful messages with the Hierophant. The Hierophant is also the bridge between the heavens and the earth, right? 𝓻𝓪𝓻𝓵 and 𝓂𝓪𝓻. So he brings this high level of wisdom and he anchors that into his physical experience. So the Ace of Embers is creation, willpower, and inspiration that is going to strike you during this time. Now, creation says that you'll find yourself on the forest floor. You found yourself here with me, right? And as you pick yourself up, a multicolored flame bursts into the air. This is so funny because we literally have a fireplace. There's fire here that gets lit, and also around the corner. So a deep grumble erupts from the heart of the flame, and it flickers and dances in the darkness. You search for what created the mystical flame, but find nothing underneath. Then from within the flame you hear a deep sigh, and the fire vanishes back into the night air, leaving you feeling invigorated, alive, but cold again in the dark. So this is your internal flame, okay? What's being activated within you is this internal light that's forever guiding your path, and you being able to trust in where it is that you're being guided, okay? And to embrace that. So again, boom, right? The mystical flame was born from something unusual and unseen. It holds a potent energy unmatched with that of common fire. It only calls upon your willpower to make it grow. In a reading, the mystical flame is a metaphor for a surge of creativity sparking from an unknown source. This is it reminds me of definitely like Venus and Mercury. It's us moving in from Scorpio into Sagittarius seasons, and all the planetary bodies also moving into that new dance of creation. So again, it's like something that was behind the scenes that you're now being called to bring to the light, even if that's yourself in a new way, even if it's a new version of yourself that you've introduced to yourself and now to the world. So it can represent a burning desire to start something new. It urges us to build upon this spark and nurture it rather than question it. It will not always be there to get you started, but when it is, take it as a gift from the universe. Ooh, so we have all fire energies, really, okay, especially with the Phoenix being depicted here. This is pretty much all fiery energy. Mercury and Sagittarius. We have the Ace of Embers too, and then we have the Hierophant, which I'm going to go ahead and read as well. So the Hierophant is one of the very wise characters in the archetype in this in the major arcana cards, right? It's something that will impact your life for 6 months onwards. It's not just a little change, it's not a minor arcana. So spirituality, oneness, you notice a fiery streak zipping across the space beyond you. You call upon the Phoenix, and it soars in the sky like a delicate explosion. The parade of colours streaming from the tail of the Phoenix contains traces of all the goodness you have engendered in your life. With these memories guiding the giant bird, it dances in the sky in true freedom, celebrating your new awakening. And in the beauty of this moment, void of all inhibitions, you realise that you are finally free too. This is someone rising above. That's what it is. You're rising above the things that once weighed you down. If the Phoenix appears, it's a time for celebration as you're approaching a new awakening and an internal holiness within the self. There's magic bubbling inside of you that only needs your complete oneness in order to soar. Do not become too rigid in your expectations. There is an undeniable natural changeability that will happen within the self. This is embodiment. That's what the Hierophant is. It's an embodiment card. It's about embodying the highest expression. Allowing patience and room for the spiritual awakening to take place will lead you to soar to greater heights. Now, the thing is about being in the present moment, this is the only place where unconditional love can emerge, because you can unconditionally accept the thoughts and emotions that may naturally and initially surface. Okay, maybe this is about the fears within the vessel, and that's also telling you the ancestral kind of theme, right? Maybe it's about fear of making friends with the unknown, fear of taking risks in this life. But then you can also begin to become curious about what that thought and the dimension and octave within yourself that's rising, and what is it telling you? You know, it's telling you where maybe there was a ability that you had when it comes to self-sabotaging. Maybe there's an ability when it comes to playing it safe, playing it small. I was gonna say safe, small at the same time. Small, safe, small. I don't know, but that's like the energy, right? So then get curious and begin to replace that thought. You know, this is neuroplasticity in a way. It's literally about, if you think about it, it literally is the neuroplasticity. It's your internal reinforced thoughts, right, that create these thought forms. They create these synapses. When reinforced again and again and again, especially ancestrally, it creates the lattice. It creates this geometric structure. And it begins to create this synapse, this internal network, right? This neurological plasticity that's then energetically projected into the world around us. So those belief systems will begin to create blockages, they'll begin to create stagnancy, and that's where you'll also begin to see blockages in the external realm, because you're tuning into that neural network, right? That path that's created. So you can begin to actually create new inroads, right? This is where you begin to pay the new path. That's what they talk about, forging a new path. It's not just forging a new path externally, but it's also being able to forge a new path within yourself, inviting yourself to think about the situation differently, feel about it differently, and interrupt that comfort zone, right? Interrupt that circuitry that had been reinforced. And that's part of our job here, you know, on earth, you know, is, again, you're being called forth by a certain lineage because you have the ability to begin to not just overcome, but create new networks, create a new experience for what your life on earth could be. And you're doing that for those who have come before you, and also, you know, yourself, for all versions that you have experienced life through, right? And it's like you get to show up for yourself in a way that hasn't been done before. So that's the beauty of it. With that being said, guys, I'm going to love and leave you right there. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, do consider subscribing. We'd love to have you around. Personal reading details are also down below. Also check out Otterspirit if you're looking for some high quality AAA grade jewelry. Comment down something below that you feel like is significant of astrophotography. Anything geometrical, anything that you feel like is symbolic for what you're experiencing. And let me know, is there anything that you are experiencing where it is that you currently are, right, within the present moment? What do you feel like the theme is that's surfacing for you? And yeah, if you also, let me know if you want me to go deeper into this topic, and I'd be happy to kind of relay that for you. Maybe we'll do some lives upcoming in December, and we'll talk about it together. But yeah, I'll speak to you guys very soon. Personal reading details also down below. I think I told you that we have 2 discount codes for Otterspirit, small family-owned business. They handcraft these beautiful gemstones. I don't remember. I'm like mind blanking right now. But yeah, $1 of the proceeds are donated towards Otter Sanctuaries, and I'll speak to you very soon. Okay. If you're not already subscribed, consider subscribing. So I'd love to have you around. Until next time. Bye.